Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday. Normally Sunday and Monday, kind of recovery days. Tuesdays, often we have a sell off, and then Wednesday can be week two, but there's some other weird stuff happening behind the scenes. But let's try get into some data today and try identify where we're going for the rest of the month. So thank you, Sean D, T&D, and did I miss anybody? BD, BDBE, and the other James and Swiping and Zeno. Thank you all for coming. Let's get into the inflection point and figure out what's going on in the markets, because somebody could sneeze and the market throws a tantrum. Somebody could put on a big short, the market throws a tantrum. Everybody is on edge, and that can be sometimes a good sign. So let's get into the story. And never financial advice. And thank you as well to everybody on Patreon. This is from Believer. I've learned so much since joining Patreon. Best money I've ever invested. Great stuff. Learnings every day. Always be learning, as I say. Let's get into the ugly news first. This is a cool little chart, actually, from a guy called Tim Peterson, which I found quite interesting. And way back when, at the beginning of the ETFs, I talked about how there was almost a mirror image of the dumpage out of GBTC into IBIT. And I'm glad to see somebody else picked up on that too. But the legacy GBTC investors are taking their unrealized gains, sell the Bitcoin dips to minimize taxes, maybe, and then they're flowing the money back into IBIT. Not sure, but it looks like when you aggregate the numbers, there is definitely some pattern there, because GBTC, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, continues to shrink, and IBIT continues to grow as well. And we had a little bit of another tantrum this time. Soybeans, believe it or not, U.S. president accuses China of an economically hostile act for not buying soybeans, just as the markets were starting to heal. And I hope the Chinese aren't using Google Translate again to translate this stuff, because it'll probably be bad. It'll probably include some curse words or something. Anyway, let's get into the bad news. A little bit of bad news here. First of all, we do have slightly bearish Bitcoin structure. Shout out to Crypto Quant and Axel. Obviously, Friday's shock kicked everybody in the teeth, and it moved the whole market structure and regime to moderately bearish. No signs of capitulation. The Bitcoin bull bear structure fell about 8%. If, however, we go to minus 15%, that's when the red flags come out. That's when it becomes a warning sign, but we're nowhere near that. And right now, there are a couple of indicators, which I'll show you in a second, showing us we might be going up from here. We'll see. Now, fear and greed, also in the bad news section, is 38, down a fraction from last week. And when we look at the top 50 over the last 30 days, brutalized, absolutely brutalized, except for Mert and his Zcash, which he's pumping like hell. Shout out to Mert, friend to the channel. But Zcash up 400% in the last month. Well, everything else is pretty much red. In fact, Bitcoin down 1.7% over the last month. And alts get completely smashed and hammered, and a couple of exceptions to that rule as well. Some of those names I had never even heard of. And Binance up 31% over the last 30 days. 1% a day, not bad. And stock market fear and greed, also 32 fear. You may remember a week ago I said, crypto fear and greed is at 72 and stock fear and greed is at 35. I said, that's not normal, because they normally kind of track each other, but now they're back in sync, thank goodness. And another kind of bad news too, global M2 still very strong, but Bitcoin is lagging hard. I actually put up a gold versus global M2 chart, and gold is actually ahead of global M2. Very bizarre. I forgot to add it here. But anyway, the question is, when will Bitcoin turn around? And I know that sounds like a broken record. It's if history repeats, it will follow. It will follow gold. It will follow silver. It will follow the NASDAQ. It will follow global M2. We just have to wait and see when that actually happens. So that's the ugly and the bad news out of the way. Let's get into the good news. Now, after what I now call Rektober, because we had an Uptember instead of a Rectember never happened, we had a very bad hit so far in the month of October. But putting things in perspective, we're only down 1%. After all that happened, Bitcoin is only down 1%, which is a absolute nothing burger compared to previous times. People are still hurting. But when you zoom out and just imagine, we're only 14 days, exactly 2 weeks into October, and we're only down 1% after what happened. But things look a little bit bad week over week. Week over week compared to Bitcoin, you can see here XRP down 8%, Binance down 6%, etc. And in dollar terms, we've got to figure out how we start measuring stuff. Bitcoin is down 10% for the week. ETH down 12% for the week. Sol down about 7%. XRP down 16%. Cardano down 20%. And Doge down 23.41%. So it has been a rough week. But when you zoom out, the first week in October, we actually shot up. Second week, October, we shot down. Net for Bitcoin, it is even Steven. So nothing really is happening. Let's look at some money flows. Digital asset funds last week up over $3 billion. Very impressive. The week before was record breaking, over $6 billion. And when you look at the monthly flows into the ETF so far, again, despite Rektober, the ETFs are still pulling in a truckload of cash, 4.68 billion so far, and we're only 2 weeks into October. These things are still doing incredibly well. We are higher than September, and we're only 2 weeks into the month of October. So this is on target. If things continue, this could be a record-breaking month, which would not surprise me as well. Now, one thing we do have to say, and this is an old chart I shared a couple of weeks ago, but I'm going to share it again because this is important for the type of things that you can see in charts and how this time is different. Many things are different this time, and I know they're the most dangerous words in the English language, but here we go. Retail FOMO back in 2013, 2014, 2015. Retail FOMO back in 2017, and it ended right at Christmas time. Retail FOMO 2021. Until crash and burn 2022, late 2022, November 22, in fact. And then since then, again, people are frustrated. I covered it actually in the Q&A video, I think on Sunday. People are almost lulled to sleep by this so-called institutional structured bid. It's constant accumulation by very big players, not retail. There is no retail FOMO. None. But there is a lot of stacking happening behind the scenes, which I'll uncover a little bit for you here in a minute. But I just want to show you what an institution, well, this is more like a governmental bid, structured bid looks like with gold. Gold, I've never spoken so much about gold in my entire life, but the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's been nothing short of mesmerizing. Gold continues to make a new all-time high every 2 days. And this has happened since the end of August. Up. We're now 41.40. Last week, we just broke 4,000. Now it's already nearly $150 higher than last week. And this is a very old, stodgy asset that doesn't make these huge moves. But you can see exactly that structured bid, piecemeal, bit by bit by bit by bit, like a water dripping into a bucket. That's exactly what we're seeing here with the gold price. The question is, when will Bitcoin follow? The answer is soon, or the meme with the dog, Thun, hopefully. So anyway, I don't know why I'm in a good mood today. I'm tired. It's been a rough weekend. Anyway, let's look at the flows by asset. A couple of things to point out here. Let me see. Bitcoin, 2.67 billion over the week. Not bad. Year-to-date flows over 30.2 billion. Remember, all the action happens in Q4. We need to get another 10 billion in to break last year's record. That would bode very well for 2026 if we can continue accumulating more money. Not more Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's more expensive, but more money flowing in. That would be huge. So Bitcoin is doing well. This week so far, a little bit mixed, but still early in the week when you have 2 days of data. What else? ETH had 338 million. That's very good. And what else? Oh, yes. It's Solana. It's interesting. ETH has 5 times the market cap of Solana, but Solana already has 21% of the ETF flows year to date. but they only have one US-based ETF. What happens when 11 more come? I think Solana will respond very positively to that. If they're already getting a fifth of the flows, more than a fifth of the flows, with a fifth of the market cap, when there's 11 big new ETFs promoted by all the top finance houses in the US, a lot of money will flow in there too. We shall see. Either way, it's going to come soon, and AltSeason is back to middle of the road. We had a little short blurb in AltSeason, middle of September, and then we faded and died back to 45, leading to the Bitcoin side. Now, a big piece I want to share with you today is everybody's expecting a great Q4 and October, and I am too, because everything is pointing that way. Money printing, rate cuts, all that goodness. Things theoretically have to go up, but let's look at this one. This is a cool chart from Peter. The name escapes me, and I feel awful because of it. But it'll come back to me. I'll put it in the show notes as well. He had this really cool tweet. He analyzed, save me the work, the Bitcoin price in October since 2015, and all of the movements. Focus on the green line. This is what happens typically during the month of October. Up until the 14th of October, the Bitcoin price goes up about 3%, 4%. We are down 1% for the first 14 days. But then the last half of the month, the last 2 weeks, it goes up 30% if history repeats. This is the mid-month inflection point. Like we say, all the action happens at the end of the year in Q4. All the action in October happens at the back half of the month of October. Again, history repeats. We'll hope it does. Let's see what other goodness we can find out here too. This is a cool chart as well from Bitcoin Gold correlation. This is called the Pearson 180-day correlation. And Bitcoin, again, if history repeats, will follow gold to a new all-time high, taking us to 150K by year end and building to 200,000 in 2026. If this correlation holds, it's about 0.7 steady eddy over a 180-day period. Gold, new all-time high today. 6 months from now, using this chart, we should be at 200,000, which will take us into March 2026. If history repeats. When I say this stuff, I'm not guaranteeing it. I'm just looking at historical patterns and telling us what should happen based on history. So either way, that's also pretty good news. And this guy, this is Matt Haugen, I think. He tends to not be too kind of over the top excited, but he did say they are helping a country buy Bitcoin, and it soon will be announced who. We know sovereign wealth funds are quietly getting prepared. We know many places are quietly stacking. We've got MicroStrategy being stacked by the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund. We have Dubai stacking as well, Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. Who is this new player? I don't know, but I hope it's not something like a Central African country. I hope it's like a big one with lots of money, preferably oil money or something, because all the oil nations are pivoting as well to AI and Bitcoin, which I covered in DCA yesterday. Super exciting thing to watch. So Bitwise, you can trust them. They are native crypto folks, and they're not going to say stuff that is not true. So we just have to find out the name, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks or months. And we have some weird news too. This is some type of terrible Cambodian human trafficking situation. But they had done some bad things, and the US government somehow got access to their Bitcoin bag, which was worth about 127,271 Bitcoin. You cannot make that number up. Worth about 15 billion. US government has forfeited it. Now, I don't know if they have to repay it or not, but people are tracking the actual wallets. And here you see the government forfeit. If this is true from Look on Chain, the government should now have US government, 324,625 Bitcoin in their bag. Again, they were stolen in December 2020 when the price was a lot lower. Lubian also spent about 1.4 of those Bitcoin. So the question is, will this become part of the US government reserve, or will it have to be repaid back? I don't know if it is stolen funds, where did it come from? Maybe from some shady characters. If that's the case, then maybe you don't have to pay shady characters back. I don't know. But if it's innocent victims, they should be paid back. We don't know the story here. But either way, a lot of people are very excited that this could mean the US government has 324,000 Bitcoin, and they are 33% of the way to the 1 million target. Having 1 million Bitcoin as a government is enough to pay off the US debt 30 years from now. That's exciting, if they could. And it'll also trigger a chain reaction. So we'll track this story carefully. And another good news, too, there was a heavy Bitcoin short. I can't remember how much they had on there, like $44 million, massive amount. Everybody's nervous because this was the same person that allegedly was shorting last Friday. So they had insider information. When they went back into a short, people thought, uh-oh, they've got insider information again, and Bitcoin's going to plummet right back to where it was. But the good news is they lost $7 million of their 44. They cut their short, they covered it, and they got out of the position. So a lot of people think that's the time to put the rocket boosters on and get back now that that short is out. And that happened. They closed a short. I don't have the timestamp here, but not literally a couple of hours ago. And this should hopefully take some of the market nervousness away and send everything higher too. We'll see. Other things that should send things higher as well. Jerome Powell was up today talking. I listened to him, and he talks. It's as if his mouth moves and he says words, but he means something completely different. Then you can read what he means from his body language, not his words. Watch his body. But he said a couple of things that are important. He admits the economy hasn't improved since September. Yeah, we know that. Okay. He said no growth. Yeah, we know that. He said the labor market, this is my interpretation, labor market is cracking badly, and that justified the September rate cut. And he basically, I think now for the first time ever, he's seeing the fact that the labor market is getting destroyed in the US. And it's one of his mandates, to keep inflation under control and to keep full unemployment happening. But he's basically messed up. I don't think he has any other option but to cut rates, which is very bullish. But he also said as well, the money printing is going to be fired up too, which means no more QT, and they're going to go into QE. No more quantitative tightening, go into quantitative easing. So another tailwind. And then, if things couldn't get better, Elon Musk decides to light a fuse too. He's posting about Bitcoin again, which gets a lot of people excited when Elon Musk talks about Bitcoin. And they are friends. Remember, Elon Musk owns a truckload of Bitcoin within Tesla and within SpaceX, which had a very successful flight yesterday, flight number 11. But this is why Bitcoin is based on energy. You can issue fake fiat currency, and every government in history has done so, but it is impossible to fake energy. And then, of course, Michael Saylor chimed in. The laws of nature are superior to the laws of man. So to give an illustration, when people, I was van der Leyen or Lagarde said Bitcoin is not backed by anything. Well, according to Elon Musk, it is. It's backed by energy. And according to this chart, it's backed by a truckload of energy. This is Bitcoin secured by energy. Great little chart here. Green is the Bitcoin price, and gold is the hash rate, up and to the right, to the moon. Again, the more value is secured in the network, the more security is required to protect the network, and that comes in the form of energy, which cannot be faked. You can't print hash. You actually got to plug a machine in and work for it. Proof of work. That's the whole history. And we have good news out of the UK. Shout out to our friends in the United Kingdom. Hey, Sean D, I see you out there. Nigel Farage pledges to buy Bitcoin for UK reserves if he wins the next election. His party is currently leading in the polls. And what we have right now, we have a bit of a pivoting turning point. We have people who are now fed up with existing governments and leaders. They're beginning to no longer trust them, thank goodness. And those types of people who don't trust government tend to like Bitcoin. So if you have a candidate saying, hey, I'm going to be pro-Bitcoin, I'm going to build a British Bitcoin reserve, BBR, not the BBC, the BBR, that'll trigger a lot of voters to say, yes, I like this guy. I don't know anything else about Nigel, but I like that stance. So I hope people didn't find that offensive. Anyhow, and Citibank, we talk about banks FOMOing into Bitcoin. The latest one is Morgan Stanley yesterday, and we have Citibank today getting in on custody. They're going to build a custody practice for crypto assets in 2026. A little late to the party. 3 years in the making. Oh, why is it taking 3 years to figure this out? It should take 3 days to set up a custody organization within your bank. Anyhow, better late than never. More are coming. This is truly a bona fide asset. And for those of you who spend time in Thailand or want to go to Thailand or enjoy not paying taxes, ta-da, it's official. They implemented the 0% capital gains tax on Bitcoin and crypto in Thailand. So that takes their already extremely low cost of living even lower. So enjoy your bags in Thailand on the beach, drinking and eating and some pineapple fried rice or other good stuff out there. Anyway, bit of more crypto news too. This is from ARK Invest. Every quarter they do a report on crypto, and they have this thing called REV, Real Economic Value. And they talk about how real economic value has declined across the board, but they did say Solana has the highest economic value of any chain, and Tron is number 2. I think 223 million in the quarter was net real economic value generated by the Solana blockchain, and Tron with about 160. Did it say how much ETH had? I don't think they even mentioned ETH on the list. What's interesting, though, is Cathie Wood is investing in a whole bunch of digital asset treasury companies, which are Solana-based now as well. So she must be looking at her data and making data-driven decisions, and they are very data-driven, and that's why I like Cathie Wood and ARK Invest. Good on them, too. But again, Sol, number 1, Tron, number 2. I need to pull up this report and get the exact breakdown, who's number 3 or 4 or 5, etc. Now, in terms of Solana 2, they're still winning. Oh, I forgot to mention too, on this last chart, people might ask, at least I asked, why are revenues down across the board despite adoption of crypto being up? I think it is because of fee compression across the board. So for example, if you're perping 2 years ago, 3 years ago on different dexes, perp dexes, your fees were really high, but now there's so much more competition. They're all cutting each other's throat. They're bringing fees down. In fact, Ethereum fees have also come down a lot since 2021 when they were ridiculous. You'd have to pay $300 to move an NFT or something like that. It's not that expensive now. It's only about $100, unless it's really, I think it hit $600 last Friday because of traffic, but normally it's not that expensive at all anymore. But back to crypto, who has the most weekly active users? And the number 1 chain is, again, Solana, 53.8 million. Number 2 now is Binance, 37.7 million. ETH, 8 million. Tron, 15 million. Bitcoin, 11 million weekly users. That's really impressive, actually, for Bitcoin. Bitcoin has more weekly users than Ethereum. Think about that. The store of value, where much of the stuff is locked away in ETFs and treasuries, and long-term holders has more active users than Ethereum. I think that's pretty wild. Who else is on the list? Polygon, 6.3 million. Probably all the Poly market people. Base, 12 million. Again, Base has more users than Bitcoin. So that's kind of interesting data. Either way, one of the things I look at now is we know Binance has been on a ripper and the market cap is huge. What would? And for the longest time, there's always a time where Solana has a leapfrogs Binance on crypto market cap. What would the price be if it did that today? The answer is $334.41 at 1.68x from here. That day will come. That, I promise you. We'll see. You just need to be patient. And stablecoin minting over the last 4 or 5 months is highest now on not only the amount of transfer volume and the transactions on Solana, but also now minting is going through the roof. Solana mints nearly $3 billion in a week, and $36 billion year to date has been minted on Solana. So a truckload of activity there. Let's talk about stocks for a second. Last 7 days for stocks, also hit by the tariff tantrums, the China-USA spat. Google down 1%, Microsoft 3%, Apple 3.5%, Nvidia 3.3%. Brutal. Broadcom up 2%. Tesla down 4%, Meta down 1%, and Oracle up 2%. So Amazon down 2%. All in all, huge amount of drama, very little market action. And this is after, I think, the stock market was up, S&P 500 was up every day since September 1st or something wild like that. So again, everything takes a breather. Everything mean reverts. And Saylor grabs another bag, but he's not buying big like he used to before. But he is back in the market. He bought, I think, 220 Bitcoin for 27.2 million at 123K a coin. He should have timed his DCA a little bit better. He could have bought it on Kraken for 100,000. Again, timing is everything in life. And Iris Energy, Bitcoin miners are on fire at last. It's so funny. We had a brilliant 2023, brilliant 2024, and 2025 sucked for miners until now. And now the analyst, Cantor Fitzgerald, raises Iris Energy's price target from $49 up to $100. And they talk about how they compare them to CoreWeave. And CoreWeave is, like when you look at the whole AI thing, there are definitely bubbles in different places. But the amount of money that OpenAI spends on CoreWeave is ridiculous. NVIDIA own a big chunk of CoreWeave, and they're all renting out these GPUs at extremely high margins. And there's so many fingers in the pie eating all of this stuff. It's going to compress everything. But I like this news about Iris Energy, price target of $100. Currently, the price target of Iris is 69.81, so not far to go to get there. But when you look at CleanSpark and Marathon, I mean, the only big difference between Iris Energy is they pivoted to HPC earlier, which is a great move on their part. But CleanSpark have over 13,000 Bitcoin in a hodl bag. Marathon have over 53,000 Bitcoin in a hodl bag. Those top two have hodl bags. So if Bitcoin does go to the moon, they will benefit a lot. And expect some big news as well on CleanSpark on their HPC pivot as well. Because they do own land. They do own transformers, they own energy sources, and they own infrastructure. The only question I have about CleanSpark is how far those infrastructure places are from places where they need AI, because you need to be proximate to big cities and stuff. Now, speaking of AI too, I created this little map this morning, very early, of all the locations across the country where ROBOTAXI is rolling out. And they just added Colorado just over the last day or so. And they've got Miami and Tampa and a place called something Farm in Texas and Austin, Texas, looking at Chicago. Where else? All over the Bay Area and lots of other good places. Nevada is planned as well. And I'm forgetting one. I don't remember what it is. Anyway, the point is they're rolling out pretty fast. And Elon did say on the last earnings call, they should be able to expose robotaxis to half the population of the country, theoretically, before year end. They got a couple more cities to add to get to that level. And AI as well. We are still early in AI. All the bubble talk. Yes, there are select bubbles in different areas, but TSM just laid out a roadmap to $1 trillion. What was interesting about the study is they had the size of the market for these things. And the next big wave of AI is AI, AR, and XR, robotaxis and humanoid robotics. And they're coming fit, fast, and furious. A lot of people say robots will not be here for another 10 or 20 years. No, they will be here now. They're already here now. Humanoid robots are, just look at the videos out of China. They are wild, okay? Look at figure 3, wild. And Elon is insanely bullish. Check out my Substack as a free Substack I wrote yesterday on his bullish stance on Optimus. And he is not one to mince words, but he says, wait till you see what Optimus can do. Maybe thread a needle, play a violin, play basketball. I don't know. Remember the hands. The hands is where it's all at. And a shout out to CTO Larson and Ocean JJ who put this together. It was very funny. And I've heard this quote from him before. It's hilarious. But everybody thinks they are a gangster. And when it comes to putting buy orders on support. So when prices are tanking and you know where your entry level is, but you're so afraid you can't take action. But sometimes you just got to run into that burning building and take action. All these videos are turned into Substacks and podcasts, and you can listen to them in the gym, whatever else, if you miss anything. And I hope you got smarter. I want to thank everybody for being here. All the lovely people in the audience. And a big shout out to K8, Sean D, T&D Tesla. You guys are amazing. Once again, DCA rookie. Yeah, you should be a DCA pro. Change your name. Bitcoin Broccoli, Synthetic Dividend, DBF 430. I am Colt, long-term holder. Appreciate you, buddy. Teddy, Buckhorn, Zeno, Swiper No Swiping, James Voshzang, and BD McGee. Have a good day, everybody. Take care, my friends. I forgot to check the Bitcoin price while I was streaming. Now I'll check it. See what's happening. Hang on. Wow. Yeah, both Marathon Clean Spark up 10% today. Tesla took down 1%. Solana at $200 flat. And where is Bitcoin? 113,000. It's up $300 since I started. That's because of the good juju from all of you. Thank you for being here. And I hope everybody's doing good. Take care. See you tomorrow.